Hi, everybody. Welcome to The New Normal. I'm your host, Lisa Davis, aka Like Queen Lisa. Today, we've got Johnny joining us. We're going to talk a little bit about a breaking news story that came out where the U.S. Treasury sees DeFi as a national security threat. I wonder what they think of the Federal Reserve notes being handed out next door. Be right back right after this. Hey, Johnny, welcome back. We've got a little bit of breaking news. There's a couple of things going on, a couple of stories I wanted to hit real quick. There's Texas is looking at creating a gold-backed currency, and there were some GOP members who are pushing to go back to a gold-backed dollar. There's a lot of changes going on around currency around the world and here in the U.S. as well. And then just before we jumped on, I saw this article about, let's see, where am I? Which I have too many Twitter pages open.
Gold-backed currency of any sort is going to be short-term pain, but long-term gain. That's going to keep America on top. We can't keep going down the path we're on. So somehow, some way, whether it's a state, whether it's a complete overhaul of the system, but somehow, some way, there needs to be some type of commodity-backed and preferably gold, I guess, gold-backed currency. That would be, even if a state like Texas did. I think Texas is like the 9th largest economy in the world. So if they released a gold-backed currency, that would be popular everywhere. People would want to hold that currency that are smart people all over the world would want to get their hands on that currency.
Yeah, definitely. And that is what, BRICS is doing as well. The Brazil, Russia, China, India, and now we're seeing Saudi Arabia want to jump into the mix, as well as some other countries doing deals for oil in their own national currency, and then looking at their national currency as being backed with like a basket of assets, not just gold. A lot of them use mainly gold, I think, but they're backing it with gold, oil, whatever those resources are in their country. I thought it was really interesting. I don't know if you remember, this has been years ago when Mame used to come on the show. She was talking with one of her childhood friends who's now like a scientist and whatever, and they were cataloging the assets basically of the rainforest in Brazil. And she asked her, she said, how are you guys storing that? What are you doing to, how are you, documenting that? And she said they were using blockchain. So can you imagine, like, even if you were able to tokenize the value of the rainforest or the assets in the rainforest, then that helps. It helps so many countries that have always not been on an even playing field because they didn't have, maybe the oil or the gold that the US and Russia or China have, but they have other assets that are valuable to the world. Yeah. It really makes it a more even playing field for everyone.
Imagine holding a currency. I can't say fiat currency because if it's backed by gold or something like that, let's just talk about a gold-backed currency. I was going to say fiat currency, but it's not a national currency that potentially could go up in value. What a good thing for the people of that country. If they could hold a currency that at least maintains its purchasing power, or potentially would increase in purchase, especially with what's going on. I mean, that'd be a win.
The reverse of what the fern is with those Federal Reserve notes. And that would be more like what the elites, how they live their life. They are like these little trust fund babies. They own appreciating assets. Then they never sell that. Like, let's say they own a building in Manhattan and they just take a loan against that appreciating asset. Well, that's not income. That was a loan, but they never have to pay the loan back because their asset becomes more valuable and it pays the loan off itself. And so if that was possible, that that your currency in your nation could be backed by something that was an appreciating asset, I mean, that would be some kind of, I don't even know. That sounds like the perfect world.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if you say you take $100,000 and say you had $100,000 in the bank 5 years ago. Well, bought you a lot more 5 years ago than it does today.
Yeah.
Even if you held the value in silver, even with the fake spot price, silver's appreciated about 60%. It was trading about $15 an ounce 5 years ago. Now it's $25 an ounce.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd have $160,000 in spending power now versus that $100,000. If you held it in Litecoin was trading around $50 5 years ago for most of the year, right? Now it's trading at 90, so you'd have $180,000 in spending power. Bitcoin's done obviously better. Bitcoin was trading around $6,000-$7,000 5 years ago. If you held the money in Bitcoin, hell, you'd have almost $400,000 in spending power right now. So, yeah, imagine me. But the thing is, with Bitcoin, with silver, Litecoin, like we've already established and talked about, it's too complicated for normies and whatnot. It's too hard for most people to do. So they just say, but if a national currency was backed by that, they could hold the national currency in the manner they feel comfortable and then let it maintain its purchasing power because it's backed by that asset that's at least keeping up with or outpacing the rate of inflation.
That's incredible. Yeah.
And those are just averages. I mean, that, you could say, I'm just saying, what if you giving you average price from 5 years ago? I gave the average price of Bitcoin around 7,000. It dipped almost 3,000 that year. But again, it was up at 10,000 to them. It's giving you an average price. Never listen to anybody that brings up an example of buying an asset at a peak price. If you poured all your money into anything at a peak price, you're not doing it right. So if you're like, oh, what about people that bought Bitcoin at 69,000 or 68,000? It's like, okay, well, then maybe they converted a tiny bit of their currency at that point in time into Bitcoin, but not all of it. What the hell were they doing the years before that? You know what I mean? Or what have they been doing since then is more important with the currency they've got their hands on. Why'd they put all their money in at a peak? So
that's not smart. Yeah, you're supposed to buy when there's blood in the streets, right?
I always like just averaging in, like always converting your fiat into the harder asset. And that way you can take the average price and then look at what the average price is years later. And you're going to do well. If you use that model, you're going to do well, because you're not going to FOMO in. You're not going to put too much in at once. You're just slow. It's moving your, basically the concept is whatever spare change you have, you should always be converting into the hard currency. You shouldn't let it fiat build up to such an extravagant amount. And if it does, if say you have a good amount of fiat to put into something for whatever reason at one particular point in time, don't pour it all into one thing. Like put it into a basket of a few things. This way you're
create your own basket of assets, the hard asset.
Especially don't put it into the thing that's at the peak. Like yeah.
So they talk about this. I just watched this Mike Maloney video. It's like 4 minutes long or something. You guys should go check it out. But it's this triple digit silver video, and they talk about the calculations. He talks about $900. This other guy on with him talks about if you use the same inflation, or if you use the inflation rate and do the calculation, from the 80s and you on silver will be like $1,800. And they talk about that gold right now, the other day, reached its new all-time high, touched it, pushed, they shoved it right back down right before the end of the closing day, but it did reach new all-time highs. I'm not sure where it is right now, but so there's less opportunity in gold, but gold may be more stable for some of your basket of assets. None of this is financial advice, but these are opportunities for you to check out.
Okay, so I like silver, but I don't think that, and again, I like Bitcoin and Litecoin a lot better for the future we're going into, but I'm certainly still a fan of precious metals. And for people that aren't comfortable or not tech savvy, they're just saying, hey, I just can't see putting my money into this code. I'd say, well, what about gold and silver? You could touch it, right? And that's a good alternative for you if you're more comfortable with that. But I still think there's a case for owning gold because as much as I like silver and it has better fundamentals and all that, you got to keep in mind the incentive of governments all over the world is to suppress the price of silver. Every country needs silver for industry. Gold, certain countries have the incentive to push the gold price up because they're holding gold.
Right, that's a great point.
It's tier one asset. So just because something makes sense or something should be doesn't mean it is going to be. So that's why I think owning both is a smart thing if you're going to own precious metals. I would, and again, definitely want to own silver. I definitely think it has the potential to outperform. It's more needed. It's more in demand. It's more suppressed. But that doesn't mean that suppression is going to stop. Or what if they create a new system that still suppresses it? So we don't want to. Right. That's my only curveball I throw at everyone. That's like silver, silver, silver. I love silver, but what if they figure out a new way to suppress it? Even if we go to a new system, and they all have the incentive because it's used in all this high tech stuff. Where gold, they'd say gold's not used like that. We hold gold. We have the incentive to push the gold price higher, especially if we're back.
Because it would maybe save some of the banks if they push the gold price higher, if that's what they're holding.
Could potentially help certain countries especially if you want to release a gold-backed currency and now the price of gold doubles or triples. You know what I mean? So it's the thing is the price of gold silver could take a lot more of a aggressive move higher because the market cap and size of it's a lot smaller. So it has a lot more room for money to pour into it versus gold. Like even like a doubling in gold would be, probably, what is it, 12, 13 trillion dollars would have to pour into it.
Oh my gosh.
So that's, so that's a lot of capital, which if it starts being back in currencies, I could see happening. But again, it's not gonna, there's still, so that's my case for both assets.
Yeah. Well, we're seeing a lot of people focusing on metals. The Mike Maloney was talking about, his phone's ringing off the hook. Andy has been talking about, he's working both, 2 phones all the time and got all of his team working, answering emails, phone calls, all this. So there's definitely a rush to some security, which is pretty typical in history. My husband went out and robbed the bank today. We took Clint Westwood's advice. I don't know if you guys watched Westwood's video. He was talking about how nickels are actually worth 6 cents in melt right now because they are 75% copper and 25% nickel. And so as we go into this world where everything is tech and precious metals are, even if they're not used for money anymore, they're going to be used in tech and in the future. And so we ran in and grabbed some lunch today in town, and he robbed the bank.
I think at some point when nickel really went up in price, weren't nickels worth at some point 8 or 9 cents?
I remembered them being like you were making 3 cents over the nickel. And Charlie said it was just a penny today, so I got to double check with Westwood. But I kind of remembered the 8 cents as well. And maybe that's one of those things that it fluctuates, I'm sure, with the values of metals and the day and whatever. But they were cracking up at us. They love us at our bank. We went in there and he's like, "You're my Bitcoin girl, aren't you? You're cryptocurrency girl." I said, "Yes, I am." So it's great seeing
I would advise that most banks.
I know, but they're cool. They're most of them are former military.
Okay, cool.
In there, and one of my good friends, her family owns the bank and she runs it, and she's former military, and she's actually on the committee to help create the new CBDC at the Fed, which gave me hope that maybe the good guys are helping to make this thing the right way, as much as there is all the fear porn around what the bad kind of CBDC would look like, because the rails are there, the rails are built but what if you use those same rails and put a different train on the track? What if you did have a train or a currency that was digital, but that did have a privacy option for people?
I was talking about that, remember?
And that was backed by gold. Yeah.
If you had say they use Mimblewimble technology or MWeb or something like that. So there is still some hope out there that there could be good people fighting for us. Now, we're going into a digital world. So if you did a digital currency with privacy built into it, that's backed by gold. Hell, I'd rather use that currency than the dollar, than the Fed notes. I'd say a digital currency that's backed and it has a privacy layer, I'll use it. Shit, why not? But so I feel like it has such a potential to be used for bad, programmable money, make the money expire, all that stuff. But we're still in America. There is still people fighting for us, thank God.
Yeah.
So let's just try to put our hope and energy into the fact that they might be able to do it the right way. Again, the Fed now thing is just, again, it's a necessary infrastructure requirement to run a digital currency on, but it's not the digital currency. It's not the CBDC. It's just the railway. So like you're saying, what if you put a good train on the track? It's good for real people, and that's not bad. That would be a good thing. And then that would actually be bullish for Bitcoin and Litecoin and good cryptos if you can trade in and out of them.
It would, because the people would have the choice, and it takes that centralization and government control away. They don't need to have our money or be controlling our money or making us slaves, like we were learning about. We decide what we do with our energy and our value and where we put that. And that's another thing. We're saying like, well, we want to hope that there's some good people fighting for us. We're in the fight too. And where we choose to put our energy today helps in that fight. So you guys think about when you're getting your paycheck or you're putting energy into and where you're shopping, shop local. Think about where you're exchanging your energy in your community, because those are the kinds of things. And write your congressman and senator. I know some people feel like they don't listen, but we have to try and we can't give up. I'm not willing to give up. And so there's a couple different letter writing platforms. And I know in the Veritasium official room, we've started a letter writing campaign to try to get through to some people. There's a form letter there that you can copy and send into your congressman or woman.
We can't give up hope. Light Shadows, it controls the issue I have with the CBDC. Right. We have that same issue with it, but we don't know how they're going to roll it out. Again, we are still in America, so if they do it the right way, if there is they do end the Fed and they get rid of it and it's not a Fed note CBDC currency for the people that has privacy built into it, then they wouldn't have such control. I guess there's always going to be some control that they want to see or have over any type of money that flows. That's just that system. But if at least if it had some properties of cash and you could still convert your money into Bitcoin or Litecoin, it wouldn't be as bad for us, I feel.
Yeah, I just don't understand why they have to have any control over it. It makes me a little crazy.
They really shouldn't. They should just issue money at a set rate out of the Treasury. That's a debt-free instrument that's backed and has privacy built into it. That's how money should be. And, I guess they would say, well, for the tax system or for, the KYC stuff and all that, I can't see them getting rid of that. So I could see them still having that like layer built into something somehow, some way when money flows in or out. But I guess if you could use it free in that system, at least that would kind of be like the current system, I guess. You know what I mean? At least it would have the current system
with privacy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second, Lee.
Yes, you're good.
Hold on.
You're good. Let me jump back over here. I was gonna read some of this article about the Treasury for you guys. Where did I put it? And I'm sure you guys heard the news about the Bitcoin in every Mac since 2018. We talked about it on World Blockchain Roundtable today, and one of the guys is a really talented coder, and he said that it's called an Easter egg, and that coders will do stuff like that sometimes, kind of like a joke or to entertain themselves. I don't know why, but it's like they will hide something in the code when they build software, and you're never intended to see it. And I guess somebody was trying to connect their printer or had problems with their printer or something. And so by going into the computer software in their Mac, because of their problems with their printer, they found this Bitcoin white paper that has been in every Mac device since 2018. And it's called an Easter egg, which is kind of funny that this is Easter week and that's now being discovered. Oh, John's back.
I'm back. Quick call.
Yeah, he's back.
Finding Easter eggs, the Bitcoin white paper in your.
Isn't that crazy?
But obviously, you want to be, even if they did do a digital currency perfect for we the people, we're not there yet. So you obviously want to be having money in these hard assets and thinking about how do you go from this system to that system in the right? Because if you're just holding Fed notes now, you're going to lose. There's going to be losers. They can't roll out a digital currency or any type of currency that's backed by gold without there being losers. There's going to be some type of something that occurs in order for this to happen. There's too much debt. There's too much of everything. So you're going to have to, even take Texas, for example. Say they issue a currency, a state issued gold backed currency. Well, if you're holding all Fed notes, when they go to do that, that's going to put a lot of pressure on these Fed notes, and it's obviously going to perform badly. And so you don't want to be converting all your Fed notes after you lost a lot more value.
That's true. What would it do to people's pensions? Which I think that's all spent now anyway with, I think it's all going to kind of burn down in a perfect mess anyway with the way that they're printing it, sending it to Ukraine, and all of that behind our back. I don't think there'll be anything to lose once it gets to that point,
What were you saying about there's not going to be anything to lose as far as
like the pensions and all that? Like, you know, Biden supposedly is making sure that everybody in Ukraine doesn't lose their pension, but they haven't raised the debt ceiling here. And the US is going to run out of, the government's going to run out of money in June. And they're right now they're spending all the postal workers and the government workers' pensions.
Right.
It's
Okay, gotcha.
open right now. So like it's already gone. There's nothing to lose because it's already gone. People just don't know. They haven't opened the gates or opened the door of the vault to realize there's nothing but cobwebs in there yet. They just don't know they've been robbed. You know, is kind of what I think.
Yeah, no, it's and no one's talking about that. No one. I brought that up to some normies and like, what do you mean? And I said, well, this was an issue about 2 months ago, and they kicked the can down the road. I said, but once June comes, the jig is up. I said, right now they're spending all the reserve money, the money in these pensions and all that. So it's, yeah, I can't see them coming to any type of agreement. So how long does the government shut down for? Does it ever open back up? Can they ever come to an agreement? How long can people not get paid for? I think with the way things are going, I can't see people not getting paid, you know, being able to handle not getting paid for more than a couple of weeks.
Yeah, there was a test done on that in Philadelphia. They shut down everybody's government like WIC card or a government welfare card to do a test and see how long till the natives got restless. And it was right about 2 weeks till people were like revolting.
Will money still pay security and all that if the government shuts down, or is it just government workers don't get paid? How does that work?
I don't know. I think we're about to find out, though.
I think we're about to find out, though.
I think we're about to find out. Let me read just a couple of things on this U.S. Treasury report really quick, because I think they are just, it's like, you know, a beast dying its last breath. I saw who went after Binance today? Australia went after Binance today, and that caused a big uproar. All these exit ramps, off and on ramps, are being attacked. Now the U.S. Treasury report warns that DeFi's threat to national security conclude that fiat is used in illicit finance more than crypto. Oh, really? You're kidding me.
No way.
You're kidding. So they've released a 42-page report assessing the risks of decentralized finance. The report states that specific nation-state adversaries, cyber criminals, ransomware attackers, thieves, and scammers are using DeFi to transfer and launder their illicit proceeds. The Treasury's report warns that DeFi could threaten national security and calls for policymakers to increase oversight. Oh, let's increase oversight. That always works so well. More rules. The U.S. Treasury report assesses the risks associated with DeFi. Let's see. The risks assessment.
Let me point one thing out, Lisa. Notice they use the word launder. You can't launder money through DeFi. See, you can sneak money around. That's not, they make you think that's laundering. I always point this out to these idiots, right? Even the people from the government, people from banks, they throw this around. They're like, laundering. I'm like, do you even know what money laundering is? They're like, and I'm like, you don't even know what it is. I'm like, so laundering money, you're making ill-gotten gains appear legal. So even if you get a lot of, say you have a stolen crypto and you convert it into another crypto, how'd you get it? How'd you get your hands on all that? They're slow. So you didn't launder anything. It's just that you, the money isn't they can't take the money from you. That's what they don't want to point out. See, they want to just be able to go in and seize the money at a click of a button. They can't do that. So they say they're laundering. It's not laundering. It's laundering means you still have to get the money into the system that's the point of laundering the money. So yeah, you still have to get that money in the system is the point.
This is their big concern, is just what you said, that it's all about the AML to identify customers.
Yeah.
They said that a lot of this don't use AML and identifying customers.
They can't, because the code is doing the thing for you. So it's and they can't stop. So if they have an issue with somebody and you push the money through DeFi, they're like, hey, the transaction can't be stopped. The trade can't be stopped. Laundering. It's not laundering. You just can't stop the transaction. They throw it out. Once that transaction goes through, they still have to launder the funds. It's not like, oh yeah, hey, you could if all of a sudden you show up with $50 million and you're like, yeah, I got it from I got it in Bitcoin. It's like, well, how'd you get the Bitcoin? You have no job, you have no this, you have no that. Did the Bitcoin fairy just come and give it to you? No, so you still have to do that whole laundering process of making it seem like it came from a legit entity. And even then, it's not, again, I always point this out. The existing system, the legacy system, is where all the money is laundered, because you need those automatic reporting requirements and structure to report for you. And that's how the money is being laundered. If it's reported for you, it's getting stamped into that system as legit. Crypto blockchains don't report, so it's not.
Right.
I've been at a conference with all 3-letter agencies, pointed out that they were lying to everybody, challenged somebody to come in the hall and debate me on money laundering. I said, you're lying to freaking everybody. Come talk to me in the hall if you really think I'm lying. I said, I guarantee I'll hear crickets. I went in the hall after. Guess what? I heard crickets. People were probably like, that guy, Johnny Litecoin, seems crazy. No, he's telling
I wouldn't go up meet you out in the hall, though, Johnny. I'm sorry. You're a little intimidating.
He's telling you the truth.
Yeah, you're going to tell the truth and you're not going to back down. They did. I loved this. In the conclusion of the report, it says, moreover, money laundering, proliferation, financing, and terrorist financing most commonly occur using fiat currency or other traditional assets rather than virtual assets. The reports conclude. So a little bit of truth coming out there. That's encouraging. Crazy times. They
still make it seem like a bad thing for crypto. The risks of
they do. They are talking about that crypto's so bad, and they have to say the truth, but then they want to put like all this. But we can't see, and we want it's all about the KYC or the AML, or what do they call it? They call it just some AML, not KYC,
anti-money laundering.
Yes, and which is the Patriot Act.
Yep.
Right, you taught us that.
And they want you to see, what they don't want you focused on is they can't do a civil asset forfeiture on you if you're holding crypto, and they can't stop the DeFi platforms from pushing transactions through because the code does it. There's no gatekeeper there saying yay or nay. That's what they don't want you thinking about. So they just throw this lawn. When most people hear the word money laundering, they fall, unless you're me and you actually understand it and you're like, no, screw you. It's not money. Don't you dare tell me I'm laundering funds. You don't even get what it is, right? They don't let you now if they say, oh, we can't do civil asset forfeiture on you and take your money. It's like, well, you're not supposed to take our money until we're guilty of something. How do we defend ourselves and fight ourselves if we're really in a country we're innocent until proven guilty? That's what they don't want you knowing about. It's like, oh, yeah, you're innocent until you're proven guilty, but we'll take all your funds from you so you can't defend yourself. So basically,
Yes. So I was reading these stories about where, like, this guy had, let's say, IP or property or whatever, and they knew that, how did it go? It's like Google or one of those big companies knew that they wanted to steal his information or his IP or whatever. And so they had like a civil act. They had like their buddies go around. It was either SEC or IRS or one of those 3-letter agencies, and attack him and do civil asset forfeiture where they take your assets. So he was unable to defend himself and protect his IP. in a lawsuit against one of these giants, and they just came and stole his IP. And I was like, what in the heck kind of Gestapo tactics are these?
And that's what they don't want you focused on when it comes to crypto. Because if people thought about it, they'd say, wait a second, isn't that you guys, the government can do that? They'd probably say they don't even realize that. So they just throw the word money laundering out there. I pointed this out before. I said, you can launder more money through a local pizzeria with a credit card machine than you could through like a big time crypto operation. And people are like, no. And I'm like, yeah, you actually can. And I'm like, and then I always ask them, I'm like, explain to me how you can launder money with Bitcoin. And no one's ever given me a way to launder money with Bitcoin. So I'm waiting for somebody to tell me, well, how do you do it then? You throw the wording out there. Explain to me how it's done. Explain to me a situation where money is laundered through Bitcoin. And then it's all about, well, they can't take the money from you. That's not laundering money. You can't take it from us. That's not. If you're sitting there and saying, well, these are my assets, I don't want you taking them. They're like, launderer. It's like, that's not laundering. Laundering.
Well, I think it's been so interesting too. There's been these stories where there's been Bitcoin stolen or whatever. I think they were bounties, because then only part of it is recovered. You'll hear about it. This happened like a couple times over the Great Infection. And then part of it is recovered, but a portion isn't. I'm like, because that was their bounty. They got to hack something. It was probably a government op or whatever, and they put a bounty out there and said, hey, come get it, to see if it was safe. And then the crypto hacker guys or whatever most likely were able to grab it, and then they tracked it back because it's Bitcoin, because it's open ledger. They know where it is. They know what wallet it's on. And then they get to keep part of it. Why would you get to keep part of it?
Yeah.
If you get caught. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So it's
they think we're stupid, I swear.
They do, and they want to muscle us around. And so just again, the key thing is getting out of that system. You know, I mean, have some Fed notes for when shit hits the fan, but don't have all your life savings in Fed notes. People are like, I've talked to some normies recently that are at least thinking in the right direction. They're like, well, I should go get all the money out of my bank, but what am I going to do? Just put cash in my closet? And I'm like, you got to get into hard assets. I'm like, you want to have some cash, because if shit hits the fan and the banking system goes down, there's a credit freeze. If I've laid out a scenario where I think they'll keep the Visa system up, but that's not going to work everywhere. And if shit hits the fan, there'll be a period of time where cash still has value, and cash might go up in value versus stuff because you're physically getting it. It'll still trade around in the society for a little bit, but you don't want.
And so much of it was taken out of the system during COVID. So much cash was taken out. So I think that's accurate, that, there would be a time or a period of time where people also don't recognize or don't know what to do as we kind of transition. So,
and you'll be able to get assets and things for cheap. We might hit a banking crisis. Right now, we already see it where businesses say, hey, it's 4% cheaper if you pay with cash. That's big in my area. Save 4% to pay with cash. They might say at that point in time, hey, save 20%, pay with cash, because we don't trust what's going on. 20% cash discount, 30% cash, whatever have you. So that's where I would say it would have more value versus money in a bank at that point in time. But look into these hard assets. Look into Bitcoin. Look into Litecoin. Look into any type of tangible things. Look into gold. Look into silver. Look into these other avenues.
And have some food and water, things like that stored up, because when the shit does hit the fan, as Johnny said, it's gonna be difficult, to transact. So just be smart, look out for your family, look out for your neighbors, have a little extra. I don't think that's ever a bad idea to be prepared, not scared, as they say. So Well, Johnny, I know you've got to run. I've got to run. I can't wait to see you in Oklahoma City. 421, 422. Nana will give you a big hug. She loves her Johnny Litecoin. And you guys get some hard assets. Contact Andy Sheckman. I've got his info at milesfranklin.com running across the bottom there. He'll give you great service, and he'll send you a thing about like what the weekly specials are or whatever for our crew. And then you can decide from there what you'd like to order. But I'm looking forward to a great, exciting April. Seems like there's like tons of news every day. I'm just like enjoying it so much. But everybody stay safe out there. We'll see you tomorrow on Happy Hour. Bye.
Bye.